Okay guys, so a little bit more details on the Spider-Man deal, which we of course know the Spider-Man deal went on earlier this year, but some of the details on how Spider-Man is going to be worked in here, the contingency plans, and various other aspects of the characters that, they're just willing to talk about. This is of course all coming from Kevin Feige, and he goes on and says that making the agreement was great, and it was really amazing on a personal level making these movies, because he goes on to say he worked on the previous trilogy, he was there before there was ever a Marvel Studios. He was one of the people responsible for the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and the one he had the most hand in is Spider-Man 2, which to many is one of the finest comic book movies, and I am going to show a little bit of bias here because it is one of my favorite movies of all time. And he goes on and says, I think we could do great things with Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man can serve a great purpose in our universe, and that's where he belongs. That's what was unique about him in the comics. And honestly, when you look at the age of the character and the way they're going, I see where they're coming from. Having a young superhero, someone that's going to know the lesson of with great power comes great responsibility. Someone that in maybe 10 years will be leading the Avengers on the big screen and will have seen the character grow. To me, honestly, that's going to be one of the most rewarding things about this Spider-Man deal. And I think that's what he's saying here, that they're coming from the same approach and the same vision as the fans. And then he goes on and says he's not the only superhero in the world. It's that he's a totally different kind of superhero when compared against the other ones in the Marvel Universe at the time. And of course he's talking about Spider-Man in general, how different he is. He has his section of New York. He has his rogues villains. He doesn't necessarily cross paths or go globetrotting to fight Dr. Doom in Latveria, goes over to Japan or anything like that. Spider-Man is a very self-contained character, and I think it's going to be great to see that finally. And then when he goes on to talk about Spider-Man finally showing up, he says, it's not about when you show up, it's about once you do, when you're there. Now this is of course once again referencing, at least in my interpretation, referencing the age and how Spider-Man is going to impact the entirety of Civil War. Because you gotta think, he's gonna be called Spider-Man, they're gonna think something completely different. And when they learn his identity, the whole paradigm shift for the Civil War arc and the Accords, I think is going to change fundamentally for both of the characters. And of course by that I mean Tony Stark and Steve Rogers and what they're fighting for. And this could possibly be the way they unite to fight Baron Zemo. And then he goes on and says, this has been a dream of ours for a long time. We have always had contingency plans, which is what we always do. Are we going to be able to make another deal with this actor? If so, this is what we're going to do. If not, then this is what we're going to do. Now, this makes sense. This is Marvel after all. This is the Marvel Studios law. They've said multiple times they have contingency plans for anything. And we know that they've stated multiple times and from different sources that if the Fantastic Four was to come back tomorrow, they know what they would do with that. And obviously Spider-Man was the big one. We can go as far back as the emails that were leaked and the emails that were shared between them, that they had a contingency plan in line even when The Amazing Spider-Man was coming out. So when you really think about it, Marvel has had their eye on Spider-Man for a really long time, probably since the inception of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this really lays the ground, the groundworks and the foundation for their entire vision for the MCU. And then he goes on and says, the most important thing as a standalone in relaunching Spider-Man in his own standalone movie with his own storyline that fits into the universe. That is the number one job for us. The connectivity is great, but it doesn't drive the train. To me, once again, what he says here is a full drive of confidence and a vote of confidence telling us, listen, we know, we listen to you guys. You guys want to see Spider-Man in the MCU, and he's going to be in that universe. He's going to be sharing the universe with Captain America, with Hank Pym, with these characters you've grown to love. Yes, he's in a universe where frickin' Howard the Duck exists out there in space, but that doesn't need to be referenced. The small references that come out of it naturally will of course play a role in this. That's what he's saying here. But he's not saying, don't expect the Avengers to show up every Spider-Man movie. I mean, this is going to be a Spider-Man movie first and foremost, and if the story naturally drives to someone like Tony Stark showing up at maybe Oscorp for some reason, then let that naturally drive the story. And then some of the final details in this that he talks about is how a lot of people are worried about a lot of the character, and he says, well, there's a lot of characters in Captain America the Winter Soldier also, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like a very singular movie because you're following one particular person's story. And let's not forget, this is still going to be a Captain America movie at its core. Spider-Man is going to play a part in it, but he's not the driving force of the movie. Neither is anybody else in the movie. It's a Captain America movie, which honestly, that makes a lot of sense once again, and I'm super excited. So with all that said, if you guys could understand everything I'm saying, I try to break it down for you guys as simple as I could. I'm wondering, what are your guys' thoughts on this? Do you guys support what he's saying here? I mean, this is the most detail we've gotten out of the MCU Spider-Man ever since the announcement, so it's a lot to take in on. You guys let me know your thoughts on all this down below. So thank you for watching the video, and if you guys like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you haven't already, check out some of these other great videos we have on the channel. Just click the annotation right there, it'll take you to them. Thank you for watching, guys, and have a good one.